Welcome back to the Horse Racing Show. I'm Kenny Rice. Thank you for being with us. Now, let me pitch this movie at you. Well-regarded Boston Globe movie critic moves to Georgetown, Kentucky over a decade ago. He starts a retirement community for old racehorses called Old Friends Farm in Georgetown, Kentucky. Are you buying in that scenario? Are you ready to sign up Matt Damon or George Clooney to be the star of it, or Brad Pitt? Well, it's a true story, and the man that got it all started, growing from one paddock and a couple of horses to over 100 acres and over 100 horses, is Michael Blowen, the president of Old Friends Farm, and our guest now. Michael, welcome in.
Oh, Kenny, thanks so much. It's great talking to you. You know, as you described that movie, probably if I was reviewing it, I'd say it's too corny to believe.
I was going to say, are you buying this? Because I wouldn't have bought it if you'd told me that in 2002, the year before you got it going.
I know, it's amazing. I'm surprised every day, you know, that I get to wake up and look out my back window, and there's Silver Charm and his old rival Touch Gold, and so over there's War Emblem and Game On Dude and Little Mike and Sun King and Albert the Great and the whole list of the stars. You know, I didn't get that excited over meeting too many movie stars, but I really got excited about having these horses. I'm enthralled.
So you wake up one day in Boston, I don't know, it's snowing or whatever the situation. You say, I think I'll go to Kentucky and start a retirement community for old horses? Well,
that's almost it. I mean, I only got into it at first because I liked the drinking and the gambling part. The only thing I knew about horses when I first got involved in handicapping was that I was afraid of them. And but I apprenticed myself out to an old bottom-of-the-barrel trainer up at Suffolk Downs named Carlos Figueroa.
Yeah.
And I worked for him for a year and a half, and I never got paid, but I did stalls and took care of the horses, and I just really liked it. It was really good exercise. I was too old to play basketball at that point, so I had to find something else to do. And I get up every morning at 5:30 and drive out to the track, get there about 6:15, start doing my work. And after a while, I started to fall in love with the horses, and it's always dangerous when you fall in love with anything, but when you fall in love with these horses, it's a disease. And at the end of the day, when these horses, you know, that couldn't make money anymore were being trotted off, I was told at the time to a riding academy in Maine. I said, gee whiz, after a while I thought, gee whiz, you know, I've been to a lot of times I've been to Maine, I've never seen one riding academy. And then I realized that that's not what was happening.
Yeah.
And I thought it was really unfair. In the back of my mind was always the idea that we should do better with these horses, not just when they're racing and when they're breeding, but also when the day is done, because they give a lot to us, and they've earned every penny of it. It's not that we're giving them anything. They've earned every bit of it. So that's how it started. And then as time went on, my wife, Diane White, was a award-winning columnist at the Globe, and I told her after we retired I wanted to try this, and I said, you're going to come, right? And we lived in Harvard Square, and it's a big difference between Harvard Square and where we moved to, which was Midway, Kentucky. And she waited about 20 minutes, and she goes, okay, I'll go with you, but only under one condition. I said, okay, what's that? And she goes, that when I leave you, you won't come looking for me. Thank God she's still here. So
Good. We want to keep this a happy story, you know, around the holidays.
Exactly.
Hey, Michael, when we're talking with Michael Blowen, who's the president of Old Friends Farm. Now, when you come to Kentucky, did you think right away this concept of yours to have this retirement community for old thoroughbreds would just be embraced and people would be showering you with money and it would just take off like a rocket?
Yes, I did think exactly that. I thought, you know, heck, they were going over to the horse park. And, you know, I first came to Kentucky. I was sent to Memphis to interview Jerry Lee Lewis for the weekend. And I was coming back, and I said, I'm going to go to Kentucky because Bull Forbes was at the horse park, and I wanted to see Bull Forbes. So I cut into Kentucky. It was the first time I ever was there. And I saw that the horse park had done this marvelous thing with retiring these famous old horses, and that was always in the back of my mind. And then I thought, well, you know, if we do it on a larger level, we could also attract visitors, and with some of these famous horses that weren't breeding and racing anymore, and we'd attract a lot of visitors, and that happened. But I really naively thought it would be embraced immediately, and it wasn't. And it's only in later years that I figured out why they didn't like it at first.
Was there a time when you thought, you know what, I did my best, I've tried hard, we've got 3 or 4, maybe a dozen horses out here now, but this is it. I just can't keep doing this.
No, it's absolutely. I probably should have. A smart person would have said, "Okay, the white flag is up. This is enough. Forget about it." But every time I even thought about the fact that it might not work, even briefly, something always positive happened to change everything. Either it was a new horse coming in, or we got a significant donation. I remember Jerry Moss, of course, who campaigns in Yada and other horses. He gave us our first big horse, and that was a beautiful black horse named Ruhlman.
Mm-hmm.
And Ruhlman came here, and he came at a time we really needed another famous horse. And so, every time that it seemed like we were headed for disaster, some very generous person would donate money, or somebody would donate a horse, and it would give us all we'd all get re-energized. And I think that's what's happened all the way along. It's like Ramon Dominguez, whose favorite horse is Fabulous Strike.
Yeah.
He told me that when he hit the top of the lane, usually these speed horses would start to back up a little bit, and somehow he found a gear, and that's why he's Ramon's favorite horse. And that's the way I felt. When we hit the top of the stretch, we were running out of gas. All of a sudden, we hit another gear and take off. And now things, thank goodness, are going a lot better.
And people come to the farm. If they want to get in touch with Michael Blowen and the Old Friends Farm in Georgetown, Kentucky, is it pretty easy to do, the website and things, to set up a tour?
Oh, very easy. Now, we're on our winter tours now, which means we give one tour a day at 11 o'clock. But during the season, when springtime comes, we do tours 3 times a day at 10, 1, and 3. And it's for $15. And I tell people if they don't like it, I'll give them double their money on their way out. And so far, nobody's had the nerve to ask me for their money back. And you get to feed carrots to these amazing horses and hear all their stories. I mean, we just got Soy Fett from California, and Hoagie, and all these old geldings that are 10, 11 years old that have put in their time, and now they're here, and it's really amazing.
Yeah, I think any animal that feels like it's getting a second chance, because both of my golden retrievers were rescue dogs. I think that there's something about that. And maybe you get that sense with a horse. I don't know. Maybe I'm getting too romantic over the holidays here, Michael, but maybe they get the chance. Hey, I'm here, and maybe I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for Michael Blowen and the Old Friends guys.
Well, I don't know if they think that, Kenny, but I'll tell you something. You're not far off. The thing is what's impressed me so much about these animals is, Silver Charm's breeding's not that good. His conformation's bad. Mm-hmm. A lot of the horses, certainly our Emblem never threw anything close to what he did with War Emblem. But, these horses that are the really good ones are smarter than everybody else. And quite literally, they have to be trained, of course, when they're racing, and they have to be trained when they're breeding. But when they come here, it's exactly the opposite. They train us. We pretty much know what each individual horse wants and when they want it. And as long as we comply, they're very, very easy to be around and a lot of fun. But they're definitely running the place, and I mean that quite literally.
We're talking with Michael Blowen, president of Old Friends Farm. More with him when we come back here on the Horse Racing Show. Welcome back to the Horse Racing Show. We hope you've had a good Christmas, a happy Hanukkah. It's a happy time for you going into the new year, and possibly you're feeling a little more benevolent than usual. You might want to think about the Old Friends Farm in Georgetown, Kentucky. It's a wonderful facility. Where do old racehorses go? Many of them, and some of the great ones, have gone there to Old Friends, which started in 2003 because of Michael Blowen, who came from Boston, where he was an established movie critic at the Globe and got it all going, and we're talking with Michael now. Has anybody approached you, by the way, about making a movie of this? Because, this is Disney-like.
Yeah, actually, I thought it would make a good animated movie, kind of and have the horses talk and things like that. But no, they haven't been breaking down doors to do that. But it certainly would be fun.
You know why? I'm gonna tell you, this computer-generated stuff is ruined movies. I like all the, it's fine. I give the Iron Man and all that. I've seen a few of them, but my goodness, nobody really acts that much anymore. It's all about, I'm going to do it in front of a green screen.
About 3 weeks ago, Kenny, Martin Scorsese wrote a wonderful op-ed column for the New York Times that you might want to look up on the internet because he makes precisely the same point.
Scorsese and I think a lot alike.
There you go.
Hey, did you have, while we're talking about the movie, we're going to get back to the horses right now. Do you have like a favorite? I don't know if you can ever say as many movies as you've critiqued over the years and just simply watch for enjoyment. Is there a movie or two that really grabs you to this day?
The one I really like the most for a variety of reasons is Chinatown.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I like Chinatown and I like Casablanca an awful lot because I was very good friends with Julius J. Epstein, who wrote with his twin brother.
With the twin brothers,
Casablanca.
yeah.
Mm-hmm. And you know that his grandson is Theo Epstein, who runs the Cubs.
I didn't, I knew who Theo Epstein was, but no, I did not. And how do you get away from the Red Sox, by the way? I'm still figuring that out.
Yeah, well, I'm not. In fact, John Farrell, the former manager of the Red Sox, came on a tour here a few months ago. We had a great time.
Oh, man, that's great. You mentioned Chinatown. I understand you got a pretty good relationship with the legendary Jack Nicholson.
Yes, we do. Jack's a really wonderful supporter of ours. He's been supportive since the beginning.
You mean like financial supporting of the farm?
Yeah.
How about that?
And he used to. I used to go to the basketball games with him, and it was like an out of body experience. I go, what am I doing here? Standing here, sitting down here in the front row of the Forum with Jack watching this basketball game. But he's a really wonderful guy. He's very down to earth. Still lives in the same house he bought after Easy Rider. In fact, it used to be if you went through the main gate up on Mulholland Drive to his house, if you went straight, you got to his house. If you went to the left, you got to Marlon Brando's house. If you went to the right, you got Charlton Heston's house. And as Marlon passed away and Charlton Heston passed away, Jack bought both of those houses. So now he owns the whole thing. But it's quite a little community back there.
Oh, that's Hollywood that we won't see again, will we? We won't see that kind of Hollywood back in those. I had the pleasure of interviewing Don Amici one time at Santa Anita. We're standing on the apron, very few people around. It was for a special that we were doing leading up to the Breeders' Cup. And he's pointing up in the stands. He said, yeah, Ty Power and I used to sit there, and Betty Grable would come by sometime. And I'm thinking, that's the thing that racing, we may not get again. Seabiscuit was made, but all the stars didn't flock to the racetrack afterwards.
No, I think you're absolutely right, and I love those stories. I mean, one of the reasons I like Chinatown so much is John Huston was like my godfather out there. Whenever anybody didn't want to do an interview or something, John would call him and say, "Well, this guy at least write down what you say," and he'd say some nice things, and I end up getting the interview. And in fact, that's how I met Jack originally. He was doing an interview with the New York Times and the LA Times, and all of us in the hinterlands, the Chicago Sun-Times and the Tribune and Washington Post, we all had to put our names in a hat, and Jack was going to pick one out to do an interview with. And John said he should talk to me, and that's how I got to be friends with Nicholson, because of John. And I met John because I had a racing form sticking out of my pocket when I interviewed him, and he wanted to go to the racetrack. So I owe it all to the racing form.
It's amazing how it comes together like that, isn't it? It's really not 6 degrees of separation sometimes in horse racing.
Yes, it is. It's a marvelous sport. We've just got to make it better.
Old Friends Farm, what is needed out there now, Michael? What keeps it going? And we talked about the winter tours. They can go online or they can make a call. It's easy to find out where you guys are in Georgetown, Kentucky. But what would you really like to have for Christmas there at the Old Friends Farm? Well,
we've got a little additional property, and I'm raising the money now to put up some more fence and put up some waterers, and so we're just looking. I'm always looking just to get a little bit more land and a little bit more property so that we can provide homes for these horses. Because obviously, when they come here, they're totally retired. This is the end of their careers, period. And And so we don't get the kind of turnover that some of the really good organizations do that retrain their horses. So the only way that we can expand is by getting more land and putting up more fence and putting up more run-in sheds and providing a quality of life for these great athletes.
How big is the staff out there? Are most of them paid, or how many are volunteers?
All the people that work with the horses are paid. For a number of reasons. We want to get really professional people and have them do it so that the horses, again, get the best care they can possibly get. And then, so we have 8 paid employees that work on the farm. And then in the office, we have 3 paid employees. But the wonderful thing and the best thing about it are tour volunteers. The people who give the tours are all volunteers, and they do a magnificent job, and they tell these horses stories in magnificent ways, and people hopefully leave the farm being very impressed by the storytelling ability of our volunteer tour guides, because they're unbelievable.
And it's wonderful. Everybody loves it that's been there. I wonder how many people know your background that come there, know about all the movie stars you've met and all the movies you've seen.
There's a few of them that do. Every once in a while, some really old person from Boston will show up. Say, I remember you. Or they mostly remember my wife because she was a great columnist, and they mostly remember her. She was fabulous.
What would be your favorite horse racing movie?
You know, that's a really good question. I used to say Casey's Shadow.
Walter Matthau.
Yeah, and
Yes.
Walter was a great horse player too.
Yeah.
And I do like that movie an awful lot. But I don't know. I think Stanley Kubrick's The Killing with Sterling Hayden's a magnificent movie, and also this one with William Holden that's very rarely seen called Boots Malone.
Yeah. Wow, that's going back. I mean, I don't even know how many times Turner Classic has that on anymore.
Yeah, it's hard to get, but I think it's really well done, and it really does give you a sense of the background, especially at the bottom. And the other one I really like, and it's not really a horse racing movie, but it's called Lean on Pete.
Yeah.
And it's a great movie that nobody saw because it had very limited distribution. But it's about a kid and racing at the bottom of the barrel, and it's a really, really good story, and it really gives you I think they shot it actually at Portland Meadows.
Yeah, I think so. I remember reading about that. Well, if you
Yeah,
want to know about movies and you want to know how to take care of old, deserving thoroughbreds, Michael Blowen is the man at Old Friends Farm in Georgetown, Kentucky. Michael, happy holidays. Thanks for being with us, and continued success out there.
Kenny, thank you so much. Come visit us. I need some tips for Keeneland.
Okay, we'll be there. Stay with us. More on the Horse Racing Show after this.